Wait, one second, I'm recording. I should be recording now. Okay, hello and welcome back to Fireplace Talks and Stories. In today's episode we have I wrote the script, I tell you, so I might as well go by the script. So, the Cold War. Yeah, oh wait. Poop. I was in the middle of the entire thing. Alright, so, the Chinese Civil War. From around the beginning to around the modern day. Oh, my voice broke there. Do apologise. Conclusion. That's what I came up with. So, welcome. So in today's episode, we're going to be diving into one of the most significant conflicts of the 20th century, marked with a lot of bloodshed. The Chinese Civil War. This war was just I write it, but my tongue does not work for it. Alright. Was not just a battle for control of China, but also a clash of ideological, political and cultural visions for the future. From its beginnings in the 1920s to its lasting impacts to modern times, we'll cover the journey of this conflict. So, let us begin. So, 1920s to 1930s, our story begins in the aftermath of the fall of the Qing dynasty. Qing? I can never say that name. I can sing the name perfectly fine, but when I try to say the word out loud. So our story begins in the aftermath of the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1912, which marked the end of over 2,000 years of imperial rule. The Republic of China was established under the leadership of the National Party, or Kuomintang, KMT, led by Sun Yat-sen. However, this new republic was fraught and instability. You know what? I can never say that. One word. Instability and internal conflict. It's because I had that a little bit shorter than it was supposed to be. And internal conflicts. Regional warlords who challenged the authority of the central government. In 1921, the Communist Party of China, the CPC, was founded in Shanghai, inspired by the Russian Revolution and Marxist ideological. The two parties, the Nationalists and Communists, were initially unlikely allies, united in their common goal to rid China of foreign imperialist influences and bring stability to the country. I always have to, charge my, mouth up before I go stability. So their early collaborations from 1924 to 1927. The KMT and CPC worked together in what was known as the First United Front, with the goal of defeating regional warlords in Northern Expedition. In the Northern Expedition, however, the tensions between the two factions soon escalated due to ideological differences and competing visions for China's future. The split and the beginning of conflict, 1927 to 1937. In 1927, Chiang Kai-shek, who had taken over the leadership of the KMT after Sun Yat-sen's death, launched a violent purge against the communists in what became known as the Shanghai Massacre. This event marked the end of the First United Front and the beginning of open hostilities between the KMT and CPC. The communists, under leadership, because it's not, one person just yet. Under leaders like Mao Zedong, retreated to the rural areas and adopted guerrilla warfare tactics. The conflict known as the Chinese Civil War had officially begun. The CPC established a base in Jiangxi province and developed the Red Army, while the KMT consolidated its power in the urban centres like Nanjing. I always confuse Nanjing for Nanking. You ever get that? Alright. Which became the capital of the nationalist government. The Jiangxi Soviet and Long March. The early phase of the war saw several military campaigns by the KMT to eliminate the communists, but the CPC managed to survive by retreating during the legendary Long March from 1934 to 1935. This epic retreat covered over 6,000 miles. You know, my dog can barely go like 6 miles before he's like, yeah, I need water. But these people walk, 6,000 miles unlimited, water. Dang. Alright, I'm going a bit off track. With the communists moving from Jiangxi to the remote Shaanxi province, despite the heavy losses, the Long March was a turning point for the CPC, solidifying Mao Zedong's leadership and gaining support among China's rural population. So now it's becoming, their leadership. Alright. Pause and temporarily unity. 1937 to 1945. Just as the Civil War seemed to be intensifying, a new external threat forced the warring sides into an uneasy truce in 1937. Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China, marking the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War, which would eventually merge into World War II. Everyone, I will give you a little bit, thing. So, even when they were allies, there was so many, casualties and deaths, because some communists and some nationalists would sneak into the camp, make it look like it was an accident, or, just outright kill the person, and then sneak out, who's got to care about one single person, all that. It was just terrible, I tell you. I read that in a book a long time ago, I tell you. Did not think it would become a news there. Which would eventually merge into World War II. Now that part there, I will also, give a little bit, talking about. Everyone says that the Sino-Japanese War started in World War... Well, the Sino-Japanese War would be basically the start of the Civil... not Civil War. World War II. I'm getting off track and messing up my words, I do apologise. But everyone counts that as the very beginning. But I wanted to say something. As everyone counts that as the beginning, technically you could go to the start of history and say that's the beginning, or World War One, or certain actions before World War One that would intensify due to World War One, and then onwards to all of this conflict. I just wanted to bring that up because it came to mind there. But back on track. I do apologise for going off track there. Faced with a common enemy, the KMT and CPC formed the Second United Front. Although they fought together against the Japanese, the alliance was fragile, with both sides maintaining their own armies and preparing for an inevitable showdown once the Japanese threat was neutralized. The war against Japan. During this period, the communists expanded their influence into rural areas, gaining popular support through land reforms and social programs. Meanwhile, the KMT government, despite being recognized internationally, faced challenges like corruption, inflation. That's never good, I tell you. I remember Joseph Stalin printing a lot of German money just to collapse the German market again, so it could not be started and in secret about them. Just a little bit of history there. And dwindling morale. Well, millions of people had already died by this point, now millions even more are dying due to Japan being here. Okay, so resumption of Civil War and Communist victory, 1945 to 1949. Okay, yeah, I thought I'd missed a bit there. No, it's just the way that I had, bunched it together. I forgot to put a space in between. With the defeat of Japan in 1945, the temporary alliance between the KMT and CPC collapsed. The Civil War resumed with even greater ferocity. Initially, the KMT seemed to have the upper hand, with superior numbers and international support, especially from the United States. However, the tide soon turned in favour of the communists. They had gained substantial support and control over rural areas, and their guerrilla tactics provided effective against larger but less motivated KMT forces. By 1948, the CPC launched a series of successful campaigns capturing key cities like Jinan, I can never say that name, Xi'an, and eventually the KMT's capital, Nanjing. Key battles and the fall of the Nationalists. On October 1st, 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the establishment of the People's Republic of China, the PRC, in Beijing. The remaining KMT forces, led by Chiang Kai-shek, retreated to the islands of Taiwan, the island of Taiwan, not islands, where they established a separate government and continue to claim legitimacy as the Republic of China. Now, I do want to say something before we continue. I always get confused between the island and southern China. I just accidentally went China Mao and it just popped up a big face of Mao there. It is Hainan. That island I always confuse for Taiwan, and then I put, Hainan on where Taiwan is. Alright. Post-war and aftermath to the modern day, 1950s to present. After the war, China was left divided. The Communist Party consolidated its power on the mainland, while KMT maintained its rule over Taiwan, creating a situation of two Chinas. The PRC was recognized by the Soviet Union and most communist countries, while Taiwan was initially recognized by Western powers and United Nations as a legitimate government of China. In the following decades, both PRC and Taiwan would undergo significant transformations. The PRC under Mao persuaded radical reforms like Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, which had profound social and economic impacts, while also causing many deaths. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, under KMT rule, transitioned from authoritarianism to democracy by late 20th century. The Cold War and changing dynamics. The Cold War further complicated relations with Taiwan and the PRC, vying for international recognition. In 1971, the United Nations voted to recognize the PRC as a legitimate representative of China, marking a significant diplomatic shift. The modern conclusion and ongoing implications. In recent decades, China has emerged as a global superpower, while Taiwan has maintained a separate political identity and thriving democracy. Despite economic ties and tensions remain, especially over the issue of Taiwan's sovereignty and status. Today, the Chinese Civil War's legacy continues to shape the geopolitical side of East Asia. While both sides have managed to coexist without direct military confrontations since 1949. Sorry, I just had to go check something. I've just had to go check something. You know what, we totally missed the Taiwan Straits Crisis 1954 to 1955 and 1958. Let me read this. Tensions between the People's Republic of China, PRC, and the Republic of China, ROC, in the 1950s resulted in armed conflict over strategic islands in Taiwan Strait. On two separate occasions during the 1950s, the PRC bombed islands controlled by the ROC. The United Nations, well not nations, the United States responded by actively intervening on behalf of the ROC. I wanted to bring that up because I saw it there and I, remembered it. Alright. Where were we? About direct military confrontation since 1949. The question of Taiwan's future remains unresolved, with Beijing's One China policy and Taiwan's desire for self-determination at the heart of ongoing tensions. In conclusion, the Chinese Civil War was a complex and multifaceted conflict that fundamentally reshaped China and the world from its early roots in the 1920s to its lingering impacts today. This war was not just a fight for political control, but a battle of ideas and identities that would shape the future. So, thank you for joining us through this, historical video. So, that is where we're going to end, actually. So, hopefully you enjoyed this. Have a nice day, safe, hope it's simple. Mr. Thank you for very important, and bye-bye, see you next time, bye-bye, see you, bye-bye.